You ever tell yourself, I'll start tomorrow, but tomorrow never comes? What if I told you that in just 7 days, you could completely change how you feel, how you move, and how you see yourself? No crazy diets, no long workouts, just a simple plan that actually works. Stay with me, because this might be the reset your life needs. Starting small is one of the most underrated secrets in health and fitness. Yet, it's the one thing that separates people who succeed from those who constantly start and stop. Most people make the mistake of going all in right from the beginning, trying to completely change their routine overnight, pushing their bodies too hard, and setting expectations that are almost impossible to maintain. It feels exciting at first, like you're finally taking control, but that intensity usually fades quickly, leaving you exhausted, sore, and unmotivated. That's why starting small is not just a strategy. It's a mindset shift that allows you to build something sustainable instead of something temporary. When you begin with small, manageable actions, like a simple 20-minute walk or a few basic exercises, you remove the pressure that often comes with big goals. Instead of feeling overwhelmed, you feel capable, and that feeling is powerful. It builds confidence because you're actually completing what you set out to do. And every time you follow through on a small commitment, you're sending a signal to your brain that you're someone who keeps promises to yourself. Over time, these small wins start to stack up, and they create a sense of momentum that becomes hard to break. Consistency is where the real magic happens. It's not about how intense your workouts are on day 1. It's about whether you can show up again on day 2, day 3, and beyond. Small steps make consistency easier because they don't demand too much from you physically or mentally. You're not relying on motivation, which comes and goes. You're building a habit that becomes part of your daily routine. And once something becomes a habit, it no longer feels like a struggle. It just becomes something you do. Another important part of starting small is that it allows your body to adapt gradually. Your muscles, joints, and energy systems need time to adjust, especially if you've been inactive for a while. When you ease into it, you reduce the risk of injury and extreme soreness, which are two of the biggest reasons people quit early. Instead of dreading your next workout, you actually start to look forward to it because your body feels better. Not worse. Starting small also helps you stay mentally engaged in the process. Big, overwhelming plans can make you feel like you're always behind, like you're never doing enough. But when your goals are simple and achievable, you experience progress almost immediately. That progress keeps you motivated, not because you're forcing yourself, but because you genuinely want to continue. It creates a positive cycle where effort leads to results, and results encourage more effort. Over time, those small actions naturally grow into bigger ones. A short walk turns into a longer one, a few reps turn into full workouts, and what once felt difficult becomes your new normal. You don't even realize when the shift happens. But suddenly you're doing more, feeling stronger, and thinking differently about yourself and your capabilities. Building momentum over perfection is one of the most powerful shifts you can make when it comes to fitness, because chasing perfection is exactly what keeps most people stuck. People often believe they need the perfect workout plan, the perfect diet, the perfect schedule, and the perfect mindset before they begin. But the truth is, perfection doesn't exist in this journey, and waiting for it only delays your progress. What actually creates results is momentum. The ability to keep moving forward no matter how small the steps may seem. When you focus on momentum, you give yourself permission to be imperfect, and that's where real growth begins. Maybe your workout isn't as long as you planned. Maybe your form isn't perfect, or maybe your diet isn't completely clean. But instead of quitting or feeling like you failed, you keep going. That simple decision to continue, even when things aren't ideal, is what separates people who transform their lives from those who stay in the same place. Momentum builds through action, not overthinking. The more you act, the easier it becomes to act again. It's like pushing a heavy object. The first push feels difficult, slow, and frustrating. But once it starts moving, it requires less effort to keep it going. The same thing happens with your fitness journey. In the beginning, it feels hard to show up, hard to stay consistent, and hard to stay motivated. But once you build that rhythm, everything starts to flow more naturally. Another important part of choosing momentum over perfection is how it changes your mindset. Instead of seeing setbacks as failures, you start seeing them as part of the process. Missing a workout doesn't mean you failed, it just means you pick it up the next day. Eating something unhealthy doesn't mean your progress is ruined, it just means your next meal is a chance to get back on track. This way of thinking removes the all-or-nothing mindset that causes so many people to quit entirely. Momentum also creates confidence, because every time you take action, you prove to yourself that you are capable. You start trusting yourself more, and that trust becomes a foundation for long-term success. You're no longer relying on motivation or external factors, you're relying on the habit of showing up. And once that habit is built, it becomes much harder to break as you continue to move forward. Even imperfectly, your results begin to reflect your effort. Your energy improves, your strength increases, and your mindset becomes stronger. You start realizing that progress is not about doing everything right, it's about not giving up. The small actions you take every day begin to add up, and before you know it, you've built something meaningful. This is why momentum matters so much, because it keeps you in the game. It allows you to keep progressing, learning, and improving without the pressure of being perfect. And in the long run, the person who keeps moving forward imperfectly will always outperform the person who never starts because they're waiting for everything to be just right. Pushing through discomfort is one of the defining moments in any fitness journey, because it's the point where most people either grow or give up. Discomfort shows up in many forms: physical fatigue, sore muscles, lack of motivation, or even self-doubt. It doesn't feel good, and that's exactly why it's so easy to avoid. But the truth is, discomfort is not a sign that something is wrong, it's a sign that something is changing. Your body is adapting, your limits are being challenged, and you are stepping outside of the comfort zone that has kept you stuck for so long in the beginning. Even the simplest workouts can feel uncomfortable. Your body isn't used to the movement, your breathing gets heavier, and your muscles start to burn. It can be tempting to stop right there and tell yourself that you'll try again tomorrow. But learning to stay in that moment just a little longer, to push through that initial resistance, is where progress begins. It's not about pushing yourself to the point of injury or exhaustion. It's about understanding the difference between discomfort and harm, and choosing to keep going when it's safe. But challenging discomfort is also mental. And sometimes that's even harder to deal with than the physical side. There are days when you simply don't feel like working out, when your mind comes up with every excuse possible to skip it. You might feel tired, distracted, or just not in the mood. This is where discipline starts to take over. Because if you only act when you feel motivated, you'll always be inconsistent. But when you train yourself to show up even when you don't feel like it, you build a level of mental strength that carries over into every area of your life. Another important thing to understand is that discomfort is temporary, but the results of pushing through it are lasting. That burning feeling in your muscles, that heavy breathing, that moment where you want to quit, it all passes. But the strength, confidence, and resilience you gain from not quitting stay with you. Every time you push through, you expand your limits just a little more, and what once felt difficult slowly becomes manageable over time. Your relationship with discomfort begins to change. Instead of fearing it, you start to expect it, even welcome it. You understand that growth doesn't happen in the easy moments. It happens when things get tough. You begin to see discomfort as a signal that you're on the right path, that you're doing something that's actually making a difference. Pushing through discomfort also builds trust in yourself. When you prove that you can keep going even when things get hard, you start to believe in your own strength. That belief becomes a powerful force because it removes the fear of challenges. You no longer see obstacles as something to avoid. You see them as opportunities to grow stronger. And as this mindset develops, it changes how you approach everything. Workouts become more focused, your effort becomes more intentional, and your progress becomes more consistent. You're no longer stopping at the first sign of difficulty. You're learning to stay in the process, to keep moving forward even when it's uncomfortable. And that's where real transformation begins. Transformation begins with one decision, and that decision is often much simpler than people think. It's not about having everything figured out. It's not about being fully motivated, and it's definitely not about waiting for the perfect moment. It's about choosing to start, even when you feel unsure, even when you feel unprepared, and even when a part of you is doubting whether you can actually follow through. That single moment where you decide to take action is where everything shifts, because nothing changes until you make that choice. Most people spend a lot of time thinking about change, instead of actually committing to it. They plan, they research, they wait for the right time, but deep down, they keep delaying the one thing that truly matters, which is taking that first step. The truth is, clarity doesn't come before action, it comes from action. You don't need to know exactly how everything will work out. You just need to decide that you're going to begin and figure things out along the way. That decision doesn't have to be dramatic or life-changing in the moment. It can be quiet and personal, something as simple as saying to yourself, "I'm starting today." But what makes it powerful is the intention behind it. It's the shift from thinking to doing, from wishing to acting. And once that shift happens, you move from being someone who wants to change to someone who is actively working on change. Making that decision also means accepting responsibility for your own progress. It means understanding that no one else can do this for you and that your results are a reflection of your actions. That might sound intimidating at first, but it's actually empowering. Because if your actions create your results, then you have control over where you're going. You're no longer waiting for circumstances to change. You're creating change through what you do every day. Another important part of this decision is letting go of excuses. Everyone has reasons why it's hard: lack of time, low energy, busy schedules, or past failures. Those challenges are real, but they don't have to define your future. When you truly decide to change, you stop using those obstacles as reasons to stay the same, and you start finding ways around them. The decision doesn't remove the difficulty, but it gives you the mindset to face it. Once you make that choice, everything else starts to align slowly. Your habits begin to shift, your priorities become clearer, and your focus improves. It doesn't happen overnight, but it starts with that initial commitment. Every small action you take after that decision reinforces it, making it stronger and more real. You're not just saying you want to change, you're proving it through what you do over time. That one decision turns into a series of decisions. You decide to show up when you don't feel like it. You decide to make better choices with your food. You decide to keep going when progress feels slow. And each of those moments adds up, building a version of you that is more disciplined, more confident, and more resilient. This is why the beginning matters so much, because without that first decision, nothing else can follow. You can have the best plan, the best advice, and all the information in the world, but none of it means anything until you choose to act. And once you do, even in the smallest way, you set everything in motion, creating a path that leads to real and lasting transformation.